Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Okay, so I almost wasn't going to vlog today. I'm not going to film videos on any of my other channels. But I was like, no, I'm trying to keep up this streak of vlogging, and to be really honest with you, I'm kind of bored. So I was going to not film any videos today, including my vlog, because the last 24 hours have been a real mess. But first of all, let me tell you what happened when I woke up this morning. So I took my contacts out late last night because my eyes were feeling really irritated. And so I don't even know what time I took them out. It was like before I took my nap last night. So 9:30 or something like that, I took my contacts out. And my eyes were really, really hurting, especially this one. They're both hurting, but this one is like really, really sore. And so it has been red all day long, and it has just been like tearing up constantly, like there's tears running down my face all the time, and it's just like my eye is really, really irritated. I didn't even try to put my contacts in. And in fact, I'm so tired of those Warby Parker glasses that I have, because Alex loves his Warby Parker glasses. I just don't think they're highest quality. So I actually brought out my old glasses, which are these old Ray-Bans that I had sunglasses. I had the frames taken out of the sunglasses. Now they make Ray-Ban glasses, but back in the day they didn't. So these are my old glasses from back in the day. But my eye is so irritated, and it's so sore, and it's been red. And usually when I wake up and it's red, it goes away. It's just this eye that's red. I don't know if you can see it. It's like really red. But usually when this eye is red, it's usually this one, but when I wake up and one of my eyes is red, within like an hour or two, it usually goes away, and I can put contacts in. I think I've talked a little bit about this yesterday and a couple days ago. So this has been going on now, off and on, for like the last week. So I'm on like pair, I think the last pair of contacts I put in was like my third pair within a week, something like that, a little bit over a week. So it's not the contacts. And I don't know what's going on, but today I woke up, and it like I almost couldn't even open my eye. And I opened the bathroom door, and the sunlight from the what do you call it? The sun, the I don't know, the light in the bathroom or whatever. It like hurt I backed up and like closed the door. It hurt my eye so bad. And I was like, I do not know what is going on. And so I sat there on the bed for a little bit, and I thought, okay, well, this will go away like in a half. Like, even just with my eyes closed right now, like my eye is so sore. I mean, it's just like, it feels like I got hit in the eye. It's really, really sore. It stings, and it has been like just like oozing like tears all day long. Well, I had a therapy appointment today, and it was like every time like I looked at my phone or I opened the computer, it was just like the light was like too much. I've been sitting upstairs actually in the dark, and I was like, I wanted to vlog before it gets too late, because I just want to rest the rest of the evening. And I was going to vlog upstairs, but with the lights off, it's so dark that you guys can hardly see me. And I know you don't probably care. You're probably like, I know some of you will be like, Peter, you shouldn't have vlogged today. You should just take care of yourself. But honestly, I'm a little bored. The thing is, to get into like a drama video, and I wanted to do a rant video. I have two videos I want to do. I want to do a rant video, and I want to do a secrets video that people sent me their secrets. And that's a very kind of like funny haha video. And I'm just like, I just don't feel great today. And just so like, I actually thought about doing it, because I thought, well, it'll kind of get my like attention off of my eye and stuff like that for a little bit. But I was like, I don't think I can make it through like a 20-minute, even like a 30-minute video. Mine are usually longer than that, without my eye tearing up and like hurting and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do my therapy session. So I didn't even know, like I started my therapy session, and he was like, your eye, I said something about my eye, he goes, your eye is so red. Like I got right into the camera. He was like, your eye is so red. And so I tried to find the darkest pair of sunglasses I have. And so I wore these sunglasses during my therapy session today. And I got done with my therapy session, and I just was like, I went outside to sit for a little bit. I can't sit in the sunlight. This is not bad because I'm looking away from the light, but even this is a lot. But like I said, to film in the bedroom, it's just like, it's too dark up there. So I was like, you know what? Alex is probably, he like feels so bad for me. He's like, I am so sorry, sweetie. So I called my eye doctor. They couldn't get me in today. They get me in tomorrow, which is great because it's Cousin Fun Day. So Caroline can take me to my eye doctor. But when I talked to them on the phone, I said, you know, like, what do you think it is? Could it possibly be pink eye? I'm like, I'm not around that many people. And I was under the understanding that the only way that you can get pink eye is to get it from somebody. And they said that that's not necessarily the case. Years and years and years ago, I thought that I had pink eye and it turned out to be exhaustion. And so I asked them about that and they said it's possible. I couldn't remember though. I feel like it affected both my eyes when that happened. So I don't really know what's going on, but you know, I said, well, if it is pink eye, what happens? Because she asked me what the symptoms were, and I said, my eye's really sore. And I said, should I put my contacts in? She said, absolutely not. Do not put your contacts in. And I said, well, I've been putting my contacts in every day. She goes, you need to give your eyes some room to breathe. She's like, you need to give it like a day or 2 or 3 where you don't wear your contacts unless tomorrow you wake up and if you wake up tomorrow and your eyes are 100% better before we see them, she's like, you know, wait till you see us and then we'll tell you if you can put your contacts in or not. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with the eye doctor. I'm hoping I wake up tomorrow and my eye feels a lot better, but right now, it is really, really sore. But I have this whole list right here of all of my videos that I was gonna film today, and I had ideas for every single channel, so I'm kind of disappointed because I wanted to film videos today. The other thing is, I'm having a really hard time even looking at my phone, let alone a tablet, so it's not like I can watch like a TV show right now. I'm hoping like when it gets darker, maybe it'll be easier for me. But I can't sit outside. I like, feel like I'm losing my brain. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna vlog for a little bit, and then I think I'm just gonna listen to my audiobook, just like lay in bed. But I don't do very well laying in bed listening to my audiobook. So like it's been like a mess. The last 24 hours have been such a mess. Oh my God, my eye is so sore. Last night, what were Alex and I watching? What did I watch last night? I was watching, he was finishing up. I thought he had finished it. Oh, see, I can't. I was gonna look at my list. He was watching The Boys down here, and I started watching The Bachelorette. So I watched last week's episode of The Bachelorette and got caught up on it. I haven't seen this week. It's high drama. And in the middle of, that was when my eye started hurting like a lot. Like, it hurt yesterday, but it started really hurting a lot when I was watching TV. No, on my iPad. And she said that today. She's like, you know, she was like, do you work on a computer? And I said, yeah, every single day. And I watch a lot of TV on a tablet and things like that. She goes, you might just be really straining your eyes. And so hopefully that's it. Because she said pink eye could take like a week or 2 to go away. And she said, we can give you some eye drops for it and stuff like that. And she was like, you know, when you see the doctor, you know, so we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, of course, you know, I'm like Google searching pink eye today on the thing with my sunglasses on, hardly being able to look at the phone. But anyway, so Alex and I were watching it, and I said to him, he had like a Snuggie on and everything, and I said, do you think it's hot in here? And he goes, no, I think it's like really comfortable. And so I went and I looked, and we usually keep our air conditioning set at 68. And it was 73 degrees in here. And I was like, babe, I don't think the air conditioning is working. So I turned it off, and then I went outside and I looked at the box, because I thought maybe the box is frozen over. The box, the fan outside. And the fan wasn't frozen over outside. And so then I went down the basement and I looked at the filter. The filter was really not that dirty at all. I just replaced it not too long ago. But I replaced the filter, and then I turned it back on. And Alex was like, just let it sit. You know, first of all, I ran the fan for like a half an hour just by itself. And then I like turned it back on, and it wasn't getting any colder in here. And Alex was like, babe, just let it like run for a little bit. Maybe like it'll cool down. Maybe it'll just like kind of fix itself. And of course, you know, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to call the I for sure thought today when I woke up, this was what I thought I was gonna be dealing with, was the air conditioning. Because I knew that middle of July, you're not gonna get somebody out here to fix your air conditioning, right? And so we were gonna call last night, and he said, if you call in the middle of the night, if you call the company where we got the air conditioning and the furnace from, he was like, if you call, it's going to be really expensive because it's going to be an emergency call. He's like, just, it's not that cold, or it's not that hot. It was like, it got down to like the upper 60s last night, so I had the windows open and stuff like that. That might be part of it too. I don't know, maybe this is an allergy reaction, because I've been outside the last couple days, and then I had the windows open all last night. I don't know, maybe that's it. I don't feel like, this doesn't feel like allergies to me, but, so I turned up, finally, like, we were getting ready, he was going to bed and I was getting ready to lay down for a nap, and so I just turned the air conditioning off completely. I was like, I think that's what I did. Well, we went downstairs in the basement, and he was like, I feel like, he said, it's kind of like, it's a different sound it's making. He said, I feel like it's like seeping out of the sides or something like that. So we felt like maybe the seal was broken on the air conditioner, but the air conditioner is not that old, so it shouldn't, like, nothing should be broken with it. We got a new air conditioner when we got a new furnace, which I can't remember when that was, but that was when we stayed at Melissa and Jason's. No, that was when the electricity went out, was when we stayed at Melissa and Jason's. The furnace was when, well, Pee-Pee would have still been alive because it was so hot in here. We ended up taking the dogs to Tanya's because it was so hot in the house. And then they finally, like, came out here and we got a new air conditioner and stuff. That was such a mess. But anyway, I will tell you this, first of all, living in the Midwest and the heat and the humidity of the summer, it makes you very, very grateful for having air conditioning, period, at all. Like, that was where I try to use, gratitude as an action, and so, like, I immediately went to that. So anyway, turned the air conditioning off. It really didn't get that hot. Like, when I got up today, it was like 74, I think. So it didn't really get ever that warm in the house. But today I got up and Alex had texted me because he was like, because I was thinking about going to this eye appointment. I cannot look at my phone. And he was like, if you need to go to your eye appointment, he was like, let me know and I can come home so that I can, meet the air conditioning people if they come. And I said, well, I'm going to run it for a little bit. Because, the air was not coming out of the vents last night at all. And so when I turned it on, the air started, like, pumping out of the vents. If I stop talking for a second, you can probably hear the air. Can you hear? I mean, it's like pumping through. And so I turned it on a couple hours ago, and it was like 74. Now it's down to like 70 in here. So it's like cooling down. So I think the air conditioner fixed itself, or I don't know what was wrong with it. But we're going to have somebody come out here and fix it. By the way, I don't know who said it. I think it was Stacy that said it. By the way, Stacy, I just want to say I got your email with all the thriller requests. Thank you so much for that. But I think Stacy said this would be a really good time to have your fireplace fixed because it's kind of off season, which I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that somebody said that. So I added that to my list of things to do this month or next month. Because I was like, she's absolutely right. Like, this is when I should have the air conditioner fixed. So, the air conditioning is back to normal. Then, I was like calling to confirm my doctor. I always call and confirm my doctor's appointments like 3 weeks ahead. And so, I was like looking at my other appointments and I was like, okay, so I was like calling my September appointments too. And my one doctor, like, they didn't even, I had an appointment in like the second week of September. They didn't even have me on there. And so I had to like reschedule that whole appointment. They actually were able to get me on the same day, but it was so weird because they were like, we don't even have you on the list or anything. So it's been a lot of that kind of stuff today. Had a good therapy session today. We were kind of like all over the place in my therapy session. I was talking to him about, because I had called and talked to him about, like, after I did my OCD video that night, some of my compulsions came back, and the next day was better. But it's kind of been like, a day's been better, then it's kind of like retracted a little bit. The rewinding of the iPad, which is like the hardest one for me to get rid of, is like coming back up a lot. And so we were talking about it, and because he was asking me, he's like, what do you want to work on next? He's like, I think, like, he goes, you have to look at this as like, this is not a perfect progression. He was like, because he was like, what % do you think you're at now? Oh, the camera, is it going out of focus? Come on now. Not today, not with all of this. Don't go out of focus. There it goes. I think it's going back in focus. But he was like, where do you think you're at percentage-wise today? Compared to where you were a year ago. And I said, oh, I'm like 80% today. I said, but I felt like before I did the video, and I said, it's weird because like we compare a lot to recovery, like the OCD, just the process of working through it and stuff. Not comparing it to it, but the language that we use in discussing it is the same. And so I said, what's weird is that, I said, I see all these people online talking about sobriety, however they stay sober, in their early days of recovery. I said, you know, people send me constantly like Instagram reels and TikToks and videos of people, like whether they're in 12-step programs or MAP programs or whatever, and they're talking about sobriety and they're like 2 and 3 months sober. It's like they know so much about it. I said, when I was in early sobriety, I said, I didn't know what was going on. I just did what I was told, and a lot of times I was even resistant to that. I said, I sure as hell couldn't have been making any videos talking about sobriety and early sobriety. I wouldn't have even known what to talk about, you know, except for maybe cravings and stuff like that. But I said, but I wonder if, like, looking back, because I do remember, you know, I have a lot of people that will reach out to me and say, when I go to meetings, people talk about they talk about drugs and alcohol, and that triggers me. It's interesting when I get that comment from people, because when I hear people talk about like drugs and alcohol meetings, and it's really like that, I would say that's probably more meetings where there's a lot of newcomers, like people in early sobriety that are talking about like, well, when I was out drinking or whatever. Like, a lot of the meetings that I go to are where there are people that have, you know, 5, 10, 20, 40 years of sobriety. And so it's like, they're not so much, like the meetings that I go to, we don't really talk so much about like the drinking days. We talk about, you know, making amends today in our life, or character defects today in our life, or resentments, or fear. You know, we don't talk about like, well, this one time when I was drinking, you know. And leads, when you hear people give speaker leads and stuff like that, they do that. Sometimes they do. Like, when I give a lead, I don't always talk about my drinking and drug history, because I don't think it's pertinent to my story today necessarily, you know. I think it's important to kind of give people an idea of where I came from, and that's part of what you do in a lead. But it's interesting when I hear people say that. Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't been to meetings when people do talk about that, you know, especially when they'll talk about like the first step comes up as a topic. But it's usually like meetings where there's like a lot of new people, like people within the first year of sobriety. And I can understand how that would be triggering for people that were going to meetings that were trying to stay sober, and somebody over here is talking about drinking or using. Like, I think that would be triggering. And so, I don't really remember that so much from when I first got sober, but I do remember like standing outside and talking to people after meetings, and people that had about the same amount of sobriety as me saying things to me like, do you miss this, or do you miss that? Or they would say, I miss this, or I miss that. And that, it wouldn't necessarily trigger me to drink or use, but it would get in my head and make me think about it. And so I was telling him that I feel like almost kind of like making the video and talking about it more in videos kind of like almost brought it to the forefront, you know? And that when I got sober, I can remember like my aftercare counselor saying to me, like, every day that you get, there's like, you know, the devil and the angel on your shoulders, right? And like every day you get sober, like your sober angel is telling you can do this, you can stay sober, while the devil's telling you can use just for today. It was like an analogy, she said. And so I said, you know, it's kind of the same thing with like the OCD. It was like, as soon as I made the video and I started talking about it, it was like, it brought it to the forefront of my mind, where at that, other than working on it, like, because I really, at that point, I wasn't having to work on it on a daily basis because I'd done so much work on it. So it was about making a video talking about what had worked for me. I think it was like the first time I had really focused on talking a lot about it. It was interesting what he said to me, because I said to him, he said, well, how did you feel after you made the video? And I said, I felt really good about it. I said, you know, I shared a lot of what you had told me and things that you had educated me on. I said, I felt really good about it. And I said, I just shared my experience. Like I said, I'm not an expert in it. You know, I just shared like what I had gone through and what worked for me and things like that. And he said, and I said, you know, I knew that it wasn't like tons of people were going to watch it. And he said, how many people, like, how many views did you get on the video? And I didn't even know. And I went and I looked, and it was like at like 4 point something. And I said, see, I said, I knew a lot of people weren't going to watch it, but I thought more people would watch over there than if I put it on one of my other channels. And he said, did you get a lot of comments like on I said, yeah, I did. I said, I actually got quite a few comments from people. I said, all the comments were really, really supportive. I don't think I got one negative comment on that video. All the comments were really, really supportive. And I said, people were saying things to me like, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And, you know, like a couple people said, I really feel seen, you know, or like a couple other people. Because I was telling him, like, one of the things I shared in that video, I think I shared it in that video, maybe I shared it in the vlog, was that one of the apprehensions about going to him and talking about it, I think now in retrospect it was because it kind of made it real, but was that, yeah, this is like helping me like be distracted off my eye. Just talking and vlogging is like really helping me just kind of like, because I feel like I'm just talking to a friend on the phone. So this is really, really nice. But I said, you know, like one of the things that, I don't even know that, like, we had talked about it a couple times in therapy, but like when I talked about it on camera, like I really felt it. One of the things that really kept me from going to him, or like I talked a little bit about it with my previous therapist, was talking about the, that like when I would compare like what I saw like on television or movies with OCD, like my counting, or I'm trying to say compulsions instead of rituals, because that's like he uses both interchangeably, but he uses compulsions more, so I'm trying to speak the same language as him. But my compulsions seemed less until I talked to him. So like, you know, they didn't seem less. They seemed like, I mean, I would see things. Hold on a second. Oh, Alex just said he's leaving work. So when he gets home, I'm gonna have to finish this vlog, because I'm not gonna vlog while he's set upstairs. I mean, I guess I could, he wouldn't care. But I can't go outside, so it is what it is. I would see stuff like on TV and movies, or I would read articles about stuff, and it would, like, the sightings of rituals or compulsions were always like, to me, what seemed like very out there kind of things, right? One of the things I didn't talk about with my OCD is that a lot of superstitions, like, kind of, like, went into that. Like, this is one of them. Like, this is gonna sound, not all, but some. Like, my grandfather, my dad's dad, used to believe that if you put a hat on a bed, it meant that somebody was gonna die, and he would lose it if you put a hat on a bed. And so I've always felt that. Like, I've always been like, you don't ever put a hat on a bed. And it's interesting because that was one of the first things that I worked through. And I didn't really talk about that in my video, about how a couple superstitious things, especially when it comes to numbers and counting and things like that. But like the hat on the bed, like Alex just noticed that, like, the last trip we took, I was packing and I had hats on the bed, and he was like, he said something about it. Who's calling me? And he said something about it. And I was like, yeah, I've worked through that. And he was like, oh, he's like, that's great, babe. He was like, because that was something I was like, I mean, if he put a hat on a bed, I was like, get that hat off the bed immediately. That means somebody's gonna die. And so that was like not so much superstition for me, because it played kind of into the OCD a little bit. That's more of what I would say. I mean, that's a fine line, because it's kind of superstitious. I don't want to make up an example in case somebody has this example. But for me, it was like counting. It was like steps. It didn't seem to me like I would read and hear these like stories that seemed to me outrageous. So for me, it was easy for me to minimize. And when I started talking to him about it, well, first of all, I mean, he said, well, Peter, your OCD is really, really severe. He was like, I know it doesn't seem that way to you, but it is really, really severe. And I said, it does seem that way to me. And he goes, well, because you're minimizing it by this and whatever, right? But I think it's also like when I got sober, this is where like using my recovery as a language to speak about the OCD was really, really helpful to me. You know, I would look for at first the differences instead of similarities. And that was one of the things that one of my sponsors early on told me was, you have to look for the similarities, not the differences. Like if you go in and you say, well, I didn't drink as much as they did, or this never happened to me, or that, you know, I don't relate to that, or they're so much older than me, then you're always looking for the differences, not the similarities. And that was what I was doing to try to minimize in my own head my OCD. So anyway, we talked a lot about that today. And he gave me some suggestions and things like that. And he was, but he said to me, when I said something about like 3,000 or 4,000 people had watched the video, and he said, wow, he was like, I wish that something that I said in my sessions got out to 3,000 or 4,000 people, you know, like, I said, well, I never really thought of it that way. And he goes, when you share your story of sobriety, or you share your story about marriage counseling, or you share your story about OCD, which is what you're talking about right now, or whatever you're sharing, he said, you have to realize, he was like, you know, like you always say with the recovery story, that you're just planting the seed. He's like, you really have no idea who you might be helping out there by sharing it. Because I had told him that, like, talking about the body, the binge eating disorder, and also the OCD, like, I watched a lot of videos, and hearing other people talk about it really helped me. And so that was like part of the encouragement to do the video. So we talked about that and how the video went and stuff like that. But I really never thought of it. I mean, I do with recovery, but I hadn't really so much with the OCD. But then we were talking about somehow we got talking about like my history with bullying, and I said, you know, I feel like I'm not somebody that's big on like diagnoses. And then like the last year, we've looked at, you know, well, my recovery, but I've had those diagnoses for 29 years. But I mean, clinically, I would be diagnosed as like, you know, all these things dependent and remission is how it would be diagnosed. But I said, now I have OCD, and I said we worked on binge eating disorder, but we weren't, like, you didn't really, and he kind of laughed. He was like, but we didn't really diagnose that. We just kind of talked about it. And I said, okay, ADHD we've talked about all these different things. And I said, the PTSD from bullying. And he goes, you know, you and I haven't really talked about that. He said, you worked on that with your old therapist. And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you think it comes up a lot? And I said, I don't think, like, I think this is the thing. And I said this in a video the other day, and I don't know that people, I don't know if anybody heard it or not, but like, if I talk about bullying in a video, it's not like I get off the video and I continue to like think about it. It's not like it's in my head for like the next 3 hours. It's not like I think about like, oh, woe is me, I was bullied and whatever. But I definitely think that, you know, I've worked the last couple years in and out of therapy and in, you know, whatever, on being responsive and not reactionary. And I think that, like, especially in my personal life, the importance of safe spaces for me, not having a lot of people around me, you know, having people in my life like Alex and Caroline and my family and Tanya and Valerie and Mel and Nikki and just like my you know, Melissa and Jason and stuff. My circle is very small. And I don't really ever allow room because I don't trust a lot. Like, I either go in and I trust them like completely and then I get burned, or I don't trust at all. And so it's kind of like in between. And I said to him, I said, I don't really like on a daily basis think about like, woe is me, like in 10th grade, this happened to me. Unless like somebody brings up something and it reminds me of that, right? Like watching St. Elmo's Fire, I was telling him this, that watching St. Elmo's Fire, because of when I watched it with my friends in high school and how I related to those characters, or how we all like called each other like the names of the characters and stuff, like that brought it up a lot for me because it reminded me of where I was at the time that I first saw that movie. And that was like the height of me being bullied and like really horrible stuff happening. And it was also where the guy with the, I don't know why, I mean, he was sexually harassing me and following me home from school. I mean, that's what it was. I don't know why I like mince words about it. I don't know that I've ever really dealt with that piece. I mean, I've done inventory on that stuff. So speaking of inventory, he was like, you know, we could do a trauma narrative, because I was telling him about how my old therapist had said, this was the first time that I felt seen with the bullying. You know, I've shared this with him before, but I said, when he said to me, do you think that you've suffered possibly PTSD as a result of being bullied? And I said, I'd never really thought of it that way before. But it wasn't so much about the PTSD. I don't care about that diagnosis. It was about I don't need to be diagnosed with 100 things. That's not what it's about for me. It's about understanding what's going on behind the scenes. And I said to him, it was the first time that I felt like somebody acknowledged really what I had gone through and how I behave today in the world. And so, for example, like, I have friends of mine that are in Al-Anon, right? And let's say they grew up in an alcoholic home. And, you know, maybe their parent that they grew up under that was an alcoholic passed away 30 years ago. They still go to Al-Anon because as a person in Al-Anon, they respond to the world as, or they still go to like adult children of alcoholics. They still respond to the world having grown up with an alcoholic parent or an alcoholic family member or an alcoholic spouse. So, or an addict spouse or addict, you know, whatever. So they still respond to the world in that way. And even though they've worked through a lot of it, they still respond to it. So that's why it's still like important for them that they still go to that. Does that make sense? It's like, maybe today I don't have a desire to drink or use drugs, but the thinking behind all of it that has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol, I still respond to the world that way. If that makes sense, right? Which is why it's important for me to go to meetings, which is why it's important for me to do steps, which is why it's important for me to talk about character defects and making amends and all this kind of stuff, because that's the thinking part of the disease, right? And I'll probably always deal with that. You know, you're never going to be at perfection. And so even though I don't, like, this is what we were saying today, is that even though I don't, like, on a daily basis think about, like, oh, this one day in 10th or 11th grade, this happened to me. Every once in a while that happens, but not very often. The reality is I still respond to the world and I respond to people having been bullied, right? I really think it's a huge part of like what I went through last fall and standing up for myself. And it was really the first time that I had ever stood up for myself. And I think, you know, as I don't know, I came across in a way that was comfortable for people to watch. I'm definitely not there today, thankfully. But I felt like I needed to go through that. I needed to go through that stage of like standing up for myself and like really shouting it from the mountaintops to some degree. Like I had to go through that. It was really the first time in my life that I had really ever stood up for myself, you know, at all. And so, you know, the camera stopped. And he was saying to me today, I need to stop messing with my eye is what I need to do, because it's probably just making it worse. But he was like, you know, the trauma narrative with the accident was so helpful to you. And he said, because I was talking about really wanting to focus on the positive and whatever. And like, I still struggle. I'm just being completely transparent. I still struggle with, like, I'll read like quotes on Instagram, right? And it'll say something like, that trauma that you went through happened for you to be where you're at today. And it's a real inspiring, empowering quote, but I still struggle getting behind that, you know, because my mind immediately goes to, and a man died and his family was greatly affected by it. You know, even after talking to her and the amazing things she said to me and whatever, you know. And so, yeah, and we were, you know, kind of talking a little bit about, you know, like negativity from the past and what kind of inspired me to stand up for myself and whatever. We've talked a lot about like the stalkers and the harassers and stuff like that. And he said, you know, like a different perspective, and he said this to me before, he was like, a different perspective of a way to look at it. He was like, I mean, you don't know that this person is not like the woman from Baby Reindeer, okay? Like, just like sitting in an apartment, and like, she doesn't really get it, right? And he was like, that might be like the people that like stalked and harassed you. He's like, but another way to look at it, he was like, because Peter, you try to look at I do try to look at things empathetically. I really do, right? You know, I've said this in millions of videos, way before I ever addressed, you know, stuff last fall. I said, you know, like from To Kill a Mockingbird, you never really truly know somebody until you like, you know, stand in their shoes and walk around their front porch. There's actually, when I watched it the last time, there's two quotes. He says it two different ways. He says to Scout, you never really know somebody. I think he says, until you walk around in their skin. And then Scout says at the very end of the movie, Atticus once said, you never really know somebody until whatever, and she said just standing on the Radley front porch was enough. So she says it two different ways in the movie, which I thought was interesting because I'd forgotten which way it was said. But, you know, I do try to do that. I do try to look at where is this person coming from and whatever. And, you know, he said something to me today, and it was kind of like a powerful way to look at it. And he said, you don't know that. And I don't think this excuses it, and I don't think it makes it right, but it helps me to understand it. And I don't necessarily need to make everything right, and I don't have control or power over that, but sometimes understanding something helps me a lot. He said, you don't know that somebody's like desire to be so focused on you is what's keeping them alive. He was like, that might be the one thing that's keeping them alive because they're so miserable. Like, they literally have nothing else other than this one focus on you. And maybe that's why they do it, because they're so miserable they have nothing else. And he was like, you know, that might not be true, but he was like, if that's the case, you know. And I was like, well, maybe that is it. I don't know, you know. So anyway, we were talking about, like, last fall, and, you know, I mean, I feel like it was so weird because I got this comment on one of my videos. I don't know why this has stood out to me. I've said it in so many videos now that somebody said, I feel like we're watching the, what'd they say? The something of Peter Monn in real time. The, what's the word I'm looking at? The re-something. But anyway, like, I feel like I have, like, gone through this kind of, like, metamorphosis in the last year. That was a big part of it. I think also in retrospect, this is another thing, and I think I did talk about this in my video, was that came right after a point where I was working on my OCD. And I can remember, like, when I first in sobriety, like, I I felt so raw. I didn't really know how to feel emotions or how to respond to emotions or how to share emotions or whatever, right? And so when, and I actually, he and I had worked on this, and I had said this to him, was that when I was working on the OCD and the compulsions were going away one by one, I literally felt like I had no defense mechanisms. And so all of it was coming out at the same time. And I really think that's why last fall, because that was really when I was like heavily working on it, right? Was that all of a sudden I just felt raw and vulnerable, and it was all coming out, right? And so I think that that's a lot of what happened. But anyway, he suggested to me, he said, how would you feel about maybe doing a trauma narrative, because that was so helpful to you with the accident. He said, over being bullied. And I said, you know, I've done a lot of inventory. I've talked a lot in therapy about being bullied, but I really have never done a trauma narrative over it. He goes, well, we wouldn't have to do one as extensive as we did over the accident. He was like, but I think in looking at it and how you respond to the world today, by having gone through and being a victim of bullying. I don't really love the word victim, if you want to know the truth. In relation to me, by what I went through, as I think it feels more like an experience to me that I lived. And I also think that it keeps me in that today. But he was like, I think it would be good for you to look at how you view the world, you know? And I was like, well, I think that's actually a good point. And I said, would it be the same questions that we did on the trauma narrative for the accident? He goes, no, they'd be a little bit different. He was like, you know, I'd form them a little bit differently. But he said, I think it would be good for us to unpack, like going way back to when it first happened, you know? He was like, it may be a way for you to, moving forward, only focus on the positive and let go of the way that you look at the world through eyes of fear sometimes. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. So we're going to start working on that the next session. Last night, I got up after my nap. It was such a mess. I don't even know how to show you this. So I had to wear my glasses, but then I can't really see the iPad because it's like, I don't want to turn on my phone, but it's like this far away. And so I have to wear my reading glasses unless I'm like holding the iPad this close. I have to wear my reading glasses. So let me show you what I did last night, okay? Here are my glasses, and then I had to put my reading glasses. I talked about this just yesterday. So and then I had to put my reading glasses on. This is what I did last night watching TV. It was a mess. Now I'm like all, like my eyes are all like, they feel like they're crossed and stuff. I can't see right and whatever. These glasses, let me just show you, like, look how far out they go. That's how much weight I've lost, because this my head used to be. Isn't it weird? Like, that's one thing you don't think about is like when you gain a lot of weight, it's like my head is like, looks so much smaller now than it did then. Hats don't even fit me the same way as they used to. But I got up last night and I finished, I watched The Bachelorette. I finished The Bachelorette. I'm caught up on that. The new one was on last night, so I'll watch it tonight if I can watch the iPad. Hopefully my eyes will clear up a little bit. If not, it'll be Audible Central tonight. I watched Homicide LA. I finished the last 2 episodes. The last one was really, really good. Overall, the show just felt so different to me than the New York one. It was just completely different. It was a completely different show. I might have to have Alex like upload this video and stuff because my eye is starting to water again. Oh my god, look at that. It's not getting any better. I don't know that I can look at the computer that long if you want to know the truth with the light. I was not, like, I wanted to do the video on or Homicide LA today, but it's not going to happen because I just don't feel great. And then tomorrow's Cousin Fun Day and I have the eye appointment, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to film that many videos, so it might be Thursday before I film videos again. Ugh. And I wanted to walk tonight, and my compression shorts are still not here. So many people have given me suggestions on stuff to buy. I talked to Tanya last night. What did she tell me? That she had bought something for her husband, because he has that problem too, from like working outside and stuff. But anyway, people DM'd me suggestions. People gave me so many suggestions. I just want to say I really, really appreciate it. Also, I want to say this because somebody left a comment about this would be a good reason for me to like get on the HOA board because then like they couldn't push. Basically, they were inspiring me to like get on the HOA board because then the controlling nature of the HOA board and all that kind of stuff. I would do the HOA board. Here's the thing, right? You have to vote people on the HOA board. It's very, the HOA board, how they vote people in is like, you have to befriend everybody on the board, and then you have to get nominated. It's like this whole mess, and I'm just telling you right now, even though like the one old president has asked me several times, like he's like, I think you would be good for the board. I don't think they would vote me in on the board. I just don't think they would. My neighbor across the street, the wife, the gardener, I was gonna do that video today too. Shoot, we'll have to do that, because Thursday and Friday is my Peter Does Stuff channel is that's where that video go, is the weigh-in and the movie club. But anyway, I was asking her, because if she got on the board, I would get on the board. My neighbor next door, she's like, she wants to be on the board. Ain't nobody voting her in. That's just not gonna happen. I mean, she's young. Nobody's going to vote her in. It just isn't going to happen. I mean, I don't know that would happen. I would, tomorrow, totally be on the board. I thought I heard the garage door coming up. But I don't... we'll have to see how it happens. There's a couple people that are coming down from their positions. If it was a situation where it was like they needed somebody and I just moved right in, I would totally do that. Now it's going out of focus again. Come on. But yeah, I'm not opposed to being on the board. Come on now. Okay, so I watched Homicide LA, and then I watched like 4 episodes of Sister Wives. I was going through every season because I'm trying to finish Sister Wives. I thought it came on August 20th, but now they're saying end of August, beginning of September, because I was looking to see like all the new shows that are coming out in August and September, and Sister Wives wasn't mentioned, and I was like, I thought it was coming back August 20th, which is great because it gives me a little bit more time to catch up with it. I'm only like, I have 9 more episodes, 8 or 9 more episodes of season 6. So, yeah, Alex is home. I can hear the garage door. So, the earlier seasons, there were like 20-minute episodes. Now every episode is like 43, 45 minutes. And I looked at the other seasons, and they're shorter because this season's 20 episodes. But there are a lot of episodes in the further seasons that are an hour and 26 minutes. So I don't know how I'm possibly going to catch up with that. But that's what I watched last night. Then I went to bed. I actually fell asleep rather quickly last night, so that was good. I was having a dream about Alex, and Alex kissed me goodbye, which is so bizarre. I don't know why I just remembered that, but then my eye was like hurting like crazy, and I looked at the clock, and I was like, thank God I don't have to get up yet. So, air conditioning's working, eye appointment tomorrow, my husband's home, grateful for air conditioning and all that, so, yeah, so I'm gonna get off here now. Hello? Hello. I'm gonna get off here now and hang out with him, and I love you guys so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. I hope you guys are having a magically amazing Tuesday, and if nobody else has told you this today, I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.